Hey, what's up, everybody? Welcome to another edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. I'm Drew Dinkmeyer here with Mike Gallagher to walk you through today's 10-game slate. First big slate we've had in a while. Mike, how are you holding up through the 10-gamer?
A little slow on putting matchups up. It's up though. Yeah, wasn't used to writing a big slate for a while, so it's tough, but yeah, tough to write too. A lot of back to backs, a lot of injuries, so we'll talk a lot about it
Yeah.
here.
This is for me, I know there's a couple different times of the year where there's like the dog days of NBA.
Hmm.
For a lot of people, that comes in like March, April, once you like are kind of crawling to the finish line. There's absolutely
Hmm.
that for me. But the schedule now is so heavy on back to backs, 5 and 7s, all these different
Hmm.
situations for teams because they're just clogging in games, just jamming them in before the All-Star break. And so like now is one of the most challenging times for me from a projection standpoint
Hmm.
because you're just reacting to so much news. Um, but that's why we get paid the medium sized bucks, um, and what we enjoy doing. So let's get to the injury stuff today. Let's start with the questionable tags. Let's start with Indiana in that first game, Indiana Orlando. They're on the second night of a back to back here. Andrew Nembhard, Aaron Nesmith, and Trevlin Queen all listed questionable. What are your expectations for any of these players and how things will impact the Indiana rotation tonight?
Yeah. So we saw Nemhard not play yesterday. Got ruled up pretty early, and I gave Jackson my Raptors King stuff in matchups, so I'll just add that because I was playing behind. So, anyways, so yeah, I think Nemhard's got a good chance to miss. So that would obviously be great news for TJ McConnell. We'll see what's up with Aaron Nesmith. I think they would probably go to Terry. I don't think they like this two big lineup anymore. So I wouldn't be surprised if Matherin or Terry Taylor or somebody like that gets in the starting lineup. We saw Chris Duarte get in the first unit as well there. So yeah, kind of a lot up in the air.
So you think if Nesmith were out, do you think you said Terry Taylor? Do you think Matherin would be the guy?
I
Like,
think they like him off the bench. Yeah.
okay, okay,
Against the
yeah,
Magic too, I don't think you'd want to go super small there. So I think that they
yeah.
wouldn't start him.
Yeah, it's an interesting spot for sure. And obviously, second night of back to back for an Indiana team that got a good win last night against a Bulls team that was on a second night of back to back. And you can see that second half from the Bulls, right? They get outscored by
Mhm.
22 points in the second half. Some of these teams on the second night of back to backs, they get. Oh, I see. We have sent a bet. I just got the notification that we sent a bet. I didn't think we were
Yeah.
sending it. So you can see that these teams on second night of back to back things can kind of fall off dramatically here. So we'll see on the Indy side. They've been blown out in some second halves of back to backs that have really impacted the downside on minutes. If they are without Nembhard, Queen, and Neesmith, though, you could see they just start to get thin on bodies. I would assume O'Shea Brissett gets back into the rotation in these instances if they're really shorthanded. Um, but it'll be interesting. They basically played. I mean, basically last night was like a 7-man with some spillover minutes, so like an eight
Hmm.
man in terms of tightness. So I'm interested to see if they unwind some of that tightness tonight from a rotation standpoint.
Yep.
All right, let's move to Joel Embiid. Expected back, hopefully. Questionable tonight. James Harden is expected back there on the Philadelphia side. This one obviously impacts things quite a bit. We saw them get a really nice win in Sacramento to end a road trip without Embiid and without Harden. What are your thoughts here on the Philadelphia side tonight?
Yeah. So we should get Embiid back. I think. Sorry, just adding my Kings note to matchups. It's unedited, so I'll take a second pass at that. So sorry, Jackson. I had a little miscommunication there, but yeah. So I think Embiid's back. There were some comments from the beat saying that he didn't practice, but he got some work up. I think they're just managing him. Was never really much concern on this foot thing, so he should be back. Pretty important matchup against the Nets, who've been playing really good defense. They've been the best defense really over the last month or so, and it's a good matchup for him. We're going to see Ben Simmons guard Harden, and obviously we love to target Nick Claxton. Three of us planted opposing centers against him, so expect Embiid back, and I would expect a pretty big workload. We've seen time after time that when he's missing, not weeks at a time, they'll let him go. So I think Embiid's in a pretty good spot, and if Ben is able to slow down Harden, should be pretty decent spot. Also, should note Harden should be back from that foot injury that kept him out, which led to a pretty big Tyrese Maxey game and a really big win over the Kings over the weekend.
Atlanta, DeAndre Hunter and Onyeka Okongwu both listed questionable. They both missed last game. We saw Clint Capella, no minutes restriction there, played upper 30s. What are your thoughts on Hunter and Okongwu's availability tonight?
So hamstring tightness for Okongwu, always a little concerning. So I think he has a decent chance to miss. And then Hunter mislisted with asthma. So that was a bit odd. We saw him kind of pop up on the injury report. Probably has a good chance to return. This is like a really big injury from matchup's perspective because I think DeJounte's going to get SGA regardless, which is fine. SGA torches bad matchups all the time. But, having Giddey on Hunter versus Bogdan or somebody like that, I think that it would make Giddey a much more desirable person to target offense through. So just something to kind of think through there. But
okay,
kind of unclear, very iffy situation with the asthma.
Rudy Gobert listed questionable once again for Minnesota. We saw him play effectively last game against Houston. Is it a groin or a hamstring injury for Rudy Gobert? Groin. Either way, these things can be kind of tricky and lingering, but the Wolves have also been very conservative with questionable tags all season long. So what's your read here on the Gobert questionable tag tonight?
I'd be pretty shocked if he doesn't play. Pulling up I got the spectacles out here. Shout out to Alan Horton, Wolves radio guy, and see if I can zoom in enough here. You can see him on the right there with the same color jersey as D'Angelo, Jaden McDaniels, and all those guys. So I'm definitely expecting him to start. Got a busy morning, but still had time to go on starters jerseys watch. So expecting Gobert get a full workload. He played pretty full in his return. He's actually been so-so against Valanciunas. Meanwhile, Valanciunas has been really bad in the Gobert matchup in 4 of his last 5 outings against Gobert. One he did pop off, had a 25-7 line. But expecting Gobert back, full minutes. Game they want to get coming off an embarrassing loss against the Rockets. So should be back. That obviously pushes Nas Reed kind of out of the mix. Takes a teensy bit of upside off slow-mo. But good spot for Gobert against the worst at-rim defense per possession in the Pelicans.
All right, Jabari Smith, speaking of the Rockets, he just beat the Timberwolves, ended a 13-game losing streak. Jabari Smith was not a part of that game. He's questionable tonight. Any expectations on Jabari?
Yeah, not much. Got rolled up pretty early. We saw Tari Eason get the start, so would expect, probably game time. Did get the Q tag, so that's usually an indication that he's getting close. The Rockets have usually been doubtful, questionable, go. So based on that, he should have a good chance to play. But it's the Rockets, so tough read there.
Chimezie Metu, questionable for the Kings tonight. Any notable news or information around Chimezie?
No, not really. We saw Rashawn Holmes fill in. He would get that spot again. Some trade buzz on Rashawn Holmes as well. So, that's pretty straightforward. It wouldn't really impact things. Interesting matchup. I almost wanted to cover Boy Sabonis against the Raptors, and as I mentioned, that's on the site right now. I just got to edit it. So forgive any little typos.
Again, in that matchup against the Raptors, OJ Anunoby is questionable. Mm-hmm. Any indication of whether we see Anunoby return tonight?
Yes, should be good to go. The beat said he should play, and Nick Nurse said he asked OG if he joked that he was 92% healthy, and OG said he's 94% healthy. So we have a 94% chance, according to OG Anunoby, that he is going to be in there in the starting lineup after missing a game from a little ankle tweak.
So that should slide Precious Achiuwa out of the starting lineup. And who else does it impact from a minutes perspective? We saw Thad Young, Boucher, and Hernan Gomez get increased minutes last game, which was, I think, a 5th game in 7 nights for Toronto. They had played a bunch. It was on a back-to-back.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, would expect it to be pretty tight. I think they're going to want to have more size in that second unit. We saw Precious pick up pretty much starters minutes-ish. Not Nick, like normal person starters minutes. So I would expect him to play a bunch. In a matchup, you want the speed. Precious is a much better guy in space than Boucher or even Thad. They really trust him to play that switch-heavy scheme that they play a lot of zone with him. They run like so many different defensive coverages with Precious out there. So I think his minutes aren't going to have the high ceiling. We saw him play like mid 30s, and we were just jamming his overs and cashing them. The anti Mason Plumlee, as we're calling him in our Slack. But I expect the minutes to be solid, but not like a great value or anything. But big up tempo spot, great offensive spot.
Who do you think takes the big hit? Boucher, Thad, Juancho? Like, do you think it's spread out? Do you think one guy is more likely to take a bigger hit than the rest with OG back?
I would say Boucher.
Okay.
I think they might like Thad for a little bit for some post defense. If he gets some minutes against Sabonis, they've gone that way against post heavy guys. But you're not going there. I think it's going to be really tight here. Going on a road trip. We talked about this on the pod 10 days ago or so, where this is like the do or die stretch. They got this. They're terrible on the road. They've got all these West Coast games coming up. So I wouldn't be surprised if they jam minutes on their starters. I love Pascal today. I think Fred VanVleet's in a good spot against De'Aaron Fox. So that's a really nice game environment. We know the Kings are just scoring at will right now.
Do you think there's any chance that they could move Gary Trent back to the bench and keep Precious in the starting lineup because of the matchup with Sabonis and get some size out there? Do you think that there's a path that they could go that way?
Definitely possible. We know that there was major buzz back in the preseason that they can go to Precious starting over Gary Trent. A couple beats had said that they expected him to start more, and Precious has done really everything he's asked to, and ever since he got over his little ankle tweak. So definitely possible. We'll have to be on the lookout for that.
Okay. Monty Morris, questionable for Washington. Bradley Beal, you have notes on whether there's a minutes limit or not on the second night of a back-to-back. Still no Kristaps Porzingis. Obviously, they get a nice win in Dallas last night, much to Spencer Dinwiddie's chagrin. What are your thoughts on the Wizards tonight on the second night of a back-to-back?
Yeah, we saw Beal get managed a little bit. I flag planted him, and it was not great. Only got 30 minutes. Being back from an injury for a week typically is a good time for Beal, but I guess this being a hamstring aggravation and let them ding him a little bit. So I would expect probably low 30s, maybe 30 again. We saw him get check in pretty late in the fourth quarter in a really tight game. Keeping an eye on his minutes limit. We saw the last time Monty Morris was out, they actually started Jordan Goodwin. We expected it to be DeLon Wright. Don't know if that changes here with things being a little bit different now that they don't have KP. We've got Jordan Goodwin up against it, sort of on the two-way days. I think he's at 44 games with 50 to go.
Yep.
They did this dump Rui, and they have an open roster spot, which could go to Goodwin to convert him. So something to watch there. Either way, he's gonna play. I feel like they would certainly want to use one of their games in this spot without Monty Morris. But Monty doesn't
Kendrick Nunn just take that roster spot for Rui?
Yeah, I guess so. If they did want to keep him, I don't even know if they're like tied to him, but there's probably more guys. There's probably more movement coming, but a lot of indications from Unseld and other people around the team that they're going to convert him somehow.
Okay. Yeah. So it sounds like you don't. It sounds like you don't think that they'd be playing Kendrick Nunn then in tonight's game, or
kind of don't think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Could be wrong.
And then the other note there is last night against a smaller Dallas front court, you saw a lot less Taj Gibson. You saw a lot more Anthony Gill. Tonight against Houston. Do you think that plan changes? Do you think we see more Taj Gibson, less Anthony Gill, or do you think this is kind of the way that they would prefer to play?
Probably the same way. I think they want to give Gill a shot for now. And I don't think that as great as Şengün is, I think they're comfortable playing Daniel Gafford down there against him.
Yeah, well, Gafford, it's just a matter of how long he can play before he falls. But my thought process was if for whatever minutes are against Şengün, they want Gafford or Taj. I don't think they want Anthony Gill in those spots. We will see. They were comfortable going small last night, and Dwight Powell just ate them alive. Like Dwight Powell just destroyed Anthony Gill. Okay, Romeo Langford questionable for the Spurs. Any notes there you want to add?
No, we don't have much. Pop never says anything about injuries, so kind of flying blind there. Decent chance he misses. If he does, that would be interesting because they don't have too many guys who can defend on ball, and they like to bring Richardson off the bench. Wouldn't be surprised if they go kind of big and put Keita Bates-Diop and just throw him on LeBron. I think they want to put, if LeBron's out there, obviously there's a lot of moving parts here, but I wouldn't be surprised if they go to KBD. But I think Langford's got a decent chance to play.
Okay. Let's talk through probables and returns. No Dyson Daniels tonight for New Orleans. He got hurt last night. It looks like a severe ankle issue, so I think he'll be out a while. Najee Marshall did get upgraded to probable, and Brandon Ingram is expected to return tonight. What are the expectations for Brandon Ingram's return in terms of minutes limitations and any other notes on the Pelicans?
Yeah, we think we put him at 27 minutes, Ingram. I mentioned this on the injury show yesterday that he's still playing through pain. It was a lot of pain. He compared it to having an Achilles injury with how much pain management he's going to have. Also mentioned that I'm expecting him to get injury tagged quite a bit because it sounds like he's not fully healed, but they want to get him out there. And he said as long as he could tolerate the pain, he'll play. So expect the minutes cap here. Probably check on him. He'll definitely get the, at worst, minutes monitor quote from Willie Green that he likes to use there. So with Najee back, that's going to probably bump Trey Murphy out of the first unit, leaving a starting lineup of CJ McCollum, Herb Jones, Brandon Ingram, Najee Marshall back in at the 4 to bump out Jackson Hayes, and then Valanciunas, as I mentioned, getting the tough matchup against Rudy Gobert. But kind of hurt CJ McCollum. I think that they might even put McDaniels on McCollum and just throw Ant on Ingram. They really like to put McDaniels as their main ball pressure guy and guy bringing the ball up. So on top of CJ losing usage to Ingram, he probably gets the bad matchup. So really tough spot for CJ today.
On to doubtfuls and outs. Bobby Portis is going to be out a while. It seems like Giannis and Chris Middleton in their return from injuries. We saw Middleton kind of come off the bench. Obviously, have a cap on him. It's hard to tell what they were planning to doing with Giannis from a minutes perspective because that game was just so out of reach, like really, really early. But Giannis ends up coming back I think it was in the fourth quarter when the game's out of hand, gets up to 27. What are your thoughts on minutes expectations? We saw Middleton only played 15. Obviously, without Bobby Portis, they need more from these guys. But what do you think the ramp up is going to be for Giannis and Middleton tonight?
Yeah, talk about this a lot with Giannis, that the game in his return, he's usually pretty capped. They won't play him like mid-30s. But then after that, they're willing to let him go. So I wouldn't be surprised to see him get close to full minutes. Pretty big game here against Denver. Yep. Matchup's not great against Aaron Gordon, but I could see him kind of dominating, especially without Portis. Maybe he gets more center minutes. We've seen him have better output per minute as a center. So I'd be okay using Giannis in the spot, despite Denver's defense really improving. We'll talk about Denver in a little bit. Middleton, so I think there's a pretty decent chance that Middleton comes off the bench. There were some quotes from Mike Budenholzer talking about developing the chemistry between Joe Ingles and Middleton. Obviously, Middleton having a severe cap. Mentioned this is a knee injury, not a wrist injury. He wasn't able to ramp it up for as long of a period of time. So going to be probably a long ramp up on Middleton, who didn't really look himself, was really sloppy with the ball, didn't really get into offense in the smooth rhythm that I noticed. So I would expect a pretty decent cap there. Again, I'd probably say coin flip on him starting as well.
Steven Adams is going to be out a while for the Grizzlies. We saw that kind of came up last game with the late Q tag, and then on the second night of back-to-back, we thought it might be a rest situation. It's actually a legitimate injury. He's going to be out for a while. They started Xavier Tillman in that spot. He played very well. Brandon Clark had 3 fouls in 3 minutes, and his whole game got completely deranged by that. Then the game got out of hand, and it was a blowout. So kind of hard to take a lot from this, but you did see Tillman play 30 minutes in that game. We have seen a decent sample without Adams over the last 2 years, about 10 games or so. In those games, Tillman's averaged about 23 minutes. Clark's averaged about 23 minutes. Jaren Jackson's averaged about 28 minutes in those games. Hasn't seen a huge jump. The matchup with Golden State's also interesting to note because Golden State's been going smaller and smaller, obviously with Draymond starting. So what are your thoughts on how Steven Adams' absence impacts the Grizzlies? And I'm sure people will be searching for value here. I think it's going to be a little bit choppy in terms of who benefits on each night, because I think it'll be a little bit of a hot hand situation between Clark, Tillman, Aldama, whoever they want to, Zaire Williams, whoever they kind of want to mix in, whether how small they want to go. What are your thoughts here?
Just to add, just found out from Tom Orsbaugh that Robiel Langford is likely unavailable to play. So we kind of covered that. But yeah, matchup is really different here, right? Like you're running all those split actions with the Warriors, all that 3-point shooting, all that ball movement. You want to have Xavier Tillman out there to eat up 30 minutes? I don't think so. And I was talking about this in our Slack. we've seen Adams be like day to day, miss a game here, miss a game there. We haven't seen him miss 3 to 5 weeks at a time. So if you're a coaching staff, you kind of want to play your best guys. I think you're just, plugging in Tillman to fill in because he's kind of an Adams-ish impact as far as size and, a big body and a screener and taking up space and, just a guy who can get in the way on the glass. It fits, but you may need to rework your whole rotation here. And a lot of us were surprised when the season started that Santi Aldama pushed away Brandon Clark and made Brandon Clark now a straight center. So I wouldn't be surprised if something changes. We know Jaren Jackson has played very little center this year, but in this matchup, and we saw him play a little bit of center last year against these smaller ball movement teams. So I wouldn't be totally surprised if Xavier Tillman doesn't start, whether it's Brandon Clark, who does have good numbers next to Jaren Jackson. We won't have a single digits sample of him with the other 4 starters. So I wouldn't be totally shocked if Brandon Clark starts, or I wouldn't be shocked if Santi Aldama starts here. So yeah, definitely don't count your chickens before they hatch on Tillman, who was, out of the rotation when they didn't have Jaren Jackson. They brought him in when they were missing guys. So we know they like to go 10. So I wouldn't be surprised if they, believe in Zaire Williams to be more of a wing, bring in one of the rookies, David Roddy, push Santi up or over to, push Tillman down. So very unclear. I don't have really a confident take, but my strongest take is don't be confident about who benefits from this Steven Adams situation.
Yeah, a couple other notes. I mean, these two teams played in the playoffs last year, and Steven Adams only played in 4 of those games. So we actually have some samples of really meaningful games of how the Grizzlies decided to handle things without Steven Adams. And Tillman started a bunch of those games, but didn't play heavy minutes. I think he played 13, 14. And I think one game he did get up there on minutes. Brandon Clark's minutes were pretty consistent in the low 20s, mid 20s. And then Jaren Jackson actually played 31 minutes a game in those playoff games. So if Jaren can avoid foul trouble, there's definitely an interesting ceiling here. We just took an under on him in props because it looks like from our vantage point that the market is expecting an increase in rebounding opportunities for Jaren Jackson that we have not seen come to fruition in the games that Steven Adams has missed historically. Even with Steven Adams off the floor, Jaren Jackson's rebound rate has actually decreased this year. And I think it's one of these things about Steven Adams that he's like Robin Lopez, Brooke Lopez, these guys who are just great at boxing out. They create so many more rebounds for their team as a whole that even though they're rebounding the ball a bunch, it also helps the others rebound it. So it'll be very interesting to see the matchup with Golden State. Certainly, you would think suits up better for guys like Jaren Jackson, Brandon Clark, Santi Aldama, because of their lateral mobility to switch and kind of get through screens and whatnot.
And just to add to that really quick too, they've played Santi as a post defender at times, not a lot, but he can guard Draymond in those spots. Brandon Clark as well could kind of be in that spot. So his role as being like the low man helper and in that situation could be the same, where he's not camping out, posting up, and being able to clean under the board. So I think that the Adams thing may not affect him all that much, as you mentioned.
Yeah. Okay, let's move to the Lakers. Second night of back-to-back here for the Lakers. They're expected to get Anthony Davis back tonight. There's expectation that there'll be a minutes limit. I believe 20 to 24 was kind of the outline, 18 to 24, something like that. And then Rui Hachimura, who we don't know what their intentions are, how they intend to integrate. It's also, look, as far as spots go to get LeBron a night off, this would seem to be one of the better spots to go to get LeBron a night off. Spurs at home, you're getting AD back, you get Rui back, but you get Rui integrated potentially as well. What are your thoughts here on what we can expect from the Lakers, who have not filed their injury report as of yet, I believe?
Let me start with AD, and let me just go over this timeline because it's kind of ridiculous. So on the 22nd of last month, he was announced out with a stress injury. And then the next really meaningful report was on the 4th, starting to do stuff, looking for a target date. And then the biggest one was from Dave McMenamin of ESPN, said that Davis on, again, January 9th, was doing a ramp up involving aquatic pool workouts and running on altered gravity treadmills. So he wasn't full weight bearing on January 9th. That's like 2 weeks ago. Then on January 18th, he was doing 30, 40, and 60-minute encore workouts. That was a week ago. And then we found out all of a sudden, last week, he's going to return this week. Like, holy crap, that is one of the fastest ramp ups from not even full weight-bearing exercise less than 3 weeks ago to now playing in an NBA game. That is ridiculous. So either A, this is like the smallest stress injury I've ever seen since covering the NBA, or B, like this is just shady business. So I have my doubts. Obviously, I'm not going to, the Lakers were really shady on the front end. They might be shady on the back end. My point is, don't just assume Davis is playing today. LeBron, as you mentioned, definitely could sit playing through this ankle. You're playing the freaking Spurs. You should be able to get this one without him. You should have AD back. Maybe if AD doesn't play, maybe that changes some things. So, yeah, but if he plays, they're going to play him a good bit. We saw Darvin Ham was pretty aggressive on pulling the plug. They were down, 13-14 with 6 minutes left.
Yeah.
It was it was a little early for a plug pull, but back to back got him out of there. Like the Clippers won a little 8-0 run to put him to bed. So that maybe there's a chance he is out there. And then Rui Hachimura, expecting to start. It sounds like he'd be taking Troy Brown's spot in the starting lineup, and that would obviously move Thomas Bryant to the bench if they do start Anthony Davis. Minutes are going to be probably decent. They obviously have very little wing depth. They're counting on, Juan Toscano-Anderson for too many minutes. They're counting on Max Christie. They're counting on, Troy Brown for too many minutes. So the opportunity is really there for Rui. I don't think the usage is going to be very good. We saw him be a pretty high usage player off the bench. So that's obviously a yield to you on what you would expect Rui's rates to be. But they're going to be down.
It's really hard.
Washington.
It's really hard. I'll have to go back and look to see if I can find some comparable periods of time where he played with usage rate players of this ilk. It would probably be back to the Beal Westbrook days to see how much his usage was impacted, but it's a really hard projection on all fronts. I assume he'll also get a little bit more efficient with a little bit less usage as well and playing with these guys. But yeah, the one thing that I'll just note, watching LeBron last night, and I will get this way a few different times during the course of the season, but just appreciate what we're witnessing still, because it's really incredible what he's doing at this stage of his career, what he's done for all these years. It had me thinking of like, there's going to be a time in the next few years that I'm watching basketball that LeBron isn't there, and that's going to be weird because it's been almost 20 years now of this guy being a focal point of the NBA. And it's just appreciate the stars while you have them type thing.
Yeah, I remember I started playing fantasy basketball in LeBron's rookie season, and it's just rookies and having that impact from then and now is like so different.
Yeah, I remember my very first fantasy basketball keeper league with my friends. We did an auction based draft, and I took rookie LeBron. I spent
nice.
10 to 20% less than everybody on Kobe and Tim Duncan and everybody else, and I was taking rookie LeBron. So yeah, it's wild. On to the Nuggets, second night of back-to-back. Great matchup with Milwaukee. This is the stuff that drives me mad about the league. Like, why did the Nuggets play last night when you have a national TV game against Milwaukee tonight? Like, you want to get your best players on national TV against one another. Maybe don't schedule back-to-backs all the time.
They're not national TV, though.
This isn't a national TV game?
Brooklyn Sixers.
What?
Yeah, disrespect.
I'm despondent. So it's Memphis, Golden State, and Brooklyn Sixers.
Yep.
Outrageous. Whatever.
Disrespect.
You want your stars to play.
You
want your stars to play against each other. Don't schedule back-to-backs. So we've seen Jokic on the injury report a bunch of late. He's been questionable. Michael Porter Jr. I assume has been away from the team. I know he's been out for personal issues relating to his brother. Bones Highland missed yesterday. What are your thoughts or expectations on what we could see on this Nuggets injury report tonight?
I'm expecting MPJ to miss, personal reasons. The Beats ruled him out pretty early before. He was ruled out by the Beats and got the Q tag for a while. So be pretty surprised if he's back. Bones Highland also ruled out pretty early. Curious to see what's up with Jokic. We saw that hamstring tightness keep him out, but he looked damn good yesterday. Game winner, triple-double. This guy just can't miss from two, as you talked about before. Matchups actually on paper looks terrible, right? Bad defense. I should say good defense against the rim. But Jokic is putting on Brook. Last two matchups, he went 35-12-6 and 37-10-11. They've missed the matchups a couple times for injuries on one side or another. but he's fine, man.
And it
I'm
looks
not
like
worried about him.
they just listed Jokic, Jamal, and Michael Porter Jr. all questionable thanks to our friends at Underdog Fantasy. And Jamal was going to be the note that I was going to bring because 40 minutes last night sticks out like a sore thumb. I think this unfortunately has the potential to be a mass rest spot, which sucks. It just sucks. Like you only get 2 matchups a year of Giannis and Jokic, and this is what drives me nuts.
They listed everybody. They listed KCP, Bone. This is probably
this. I mean, like you look last night, you see 36 for Jokic, 40 for Jamal Murray, 34 for Bruce Brown. They get a road win, a conference road win. It has all the makings. So I'm pretty concerned here in terms of
don't put them on national TV. They're going, screw you guys. I'm going home.
Yeah, exactly. Obviously, if it is a mass rest situation, it would be a situation that would certainly present some value, but it would also be a situation that would present a lot of systemic risk. Because if they're sitting all of these guys that were just listed, that their team is not much different than like the Pistons team that we saw just get walloped by Milwaukee. So, this is 8:00 Eastern game, so we should get information probably right around lock time, honestly. But I think there's a chance that you could see a lot of Bruce Brown tonight. You could see a lot of Zeke Naji tonight. A lot about Christian Brown tonight. It could be a mass rest situation for the Nuggets tonight, unfortunately. Last injury note that we wanted to tackle: Jonathan Isaac returned last game, was really effective in a small limited minute stretch, helped the Magic continue to own the Boston Celtics. If there's anybody the Boston Celtics do not want to see in the playoffs, it is the Orlando Magic. The good news is they probably won't see the Orlando Magic in the playoffs. Unfortunately for my betting tickets. What are your thoughts on Jonathan Isaac's role? Minutes expectations was on like an 8 to 12 minutes limit that we saw. Still 10 points, 3 boards, 2 steals, 2 threes in 10 minutes. Pretty full stat line. What are your expectations for him as they continue to ramp him up?
Yeah, he got right to the tippy top of the 8 to 10 minute limit. Jamal Mosley had a really weird comment about him coming off the bench and said they wanted to bring him off the bench to like have that chance for the crowd to appreciate just him. He subbed in by himself, et cetera, et cetera. And I said this on the last edition, like I wouldn't be surprised if he starts. He'll have a cap. They can take him out early. Something to watch because they used him in space. They used him on ball a little bit on defense. Obviously, he was running really well. He looked great. And I mentioned as well that he topped out at 22 minutes in the G League. So I would probably put him at like 14, 15 today. But we'll see. They're obviously not tied to Gary Harris. So I wouldn't be totally shocked if he got in the starting lineup and they go kind of back to a bigger lineup again.
And the answer to the question of who is most likely to be removed from the rotation, Mike Gallagher, you hit the nail on the head. Terrence Ross comes out of the rotation. Mo Bamba was our number 1 candidate. Terrence Ross was your number 2 candidate. Mo Wagner was my number 2 candidate. They kept with Mo Wagner, which is a giant second unit. Mo Wagner, Bol, Jonathan Isaac, all sorts of length. Not a lot of shooting, so it was a good thing Jonathan Isaac went
your heart out
from 3. Yeah, it'll be interesting to see how that continues to evolve. I'm still a little bit skeptical. There's very little shooting in that lineup, so I'm very skeptical to see how they'll continue to do that. But a notable there for sure. And as you alluded to, I think the Jonathan Isaac minutes limitations are less about his health right now in terms of like the 8 to 12, and more about integrating him into an existing system. In team and play and stuff like that. I think they're trying to figure out the way to do that because they haven't had a lot of practice time with him to integrate stuff. So I think physically he can probably play 18, 20 to 22, 25 a game, but I think they'll slowly work their way up there as they're trying to kind of integrate him into the team concepts. Okay. That will do it for this edition of Established Run's NBA Injury Report Analysis Show. As always, please support the people who are supporting us. The show is brought to you by our friends at Underdog Fantasy. They have daily NBA snake drafts running for money in addition to many formats of NFL contests in the playoffs, still running for huge prizes. If you're playing NBA Pick'em, in-season subscribers can use our tools to compare ETR projections to their fantasy Pick'em games. If you haven't signed up for Underdog yet, use promo code ETR for a matching deposit bonus up to $100. That's promo code ETR at underdogfantasy.com. It is Wednesday. Wednesday is a weekday. And on weekdays, we have established a show Behind the Paywall at 5 o'clock Eastern time. Tonight, with myself and Gary Hartman, walking through this 10-game slate, bringing you all the different types of groups and rules we'll be thinking about, leverage plays, flag plants, all that jazz.
No jazz.
I did redeem my.
No, they aren't.
Yeah, all that jazz, including the Utah Jazz. I did redeem myself from the Brandon Clark flag plant last night with Donovan Mitchell, so I feel back at it. We'll see. Who I trip up on tonight. But join us Behind the Paywall, 5 o'clock Eastern tonight. If you do not have a subscription and you're uninterested in giving us your hard-earned dollars, we ask for your hard-earned clicks. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel, get notifications whenever we go live. And of course, smash that like button and help circulate our content within the algorithm. As we say, feed the algorithm, help us feed our families. We'll continue to feed you the injury information you need to make your DFS lineups, prop bets, and so on and so forth. Good luck in all your games tonight. We'll see you tomorrow.